So let's dive in. Between May 7th and 10th, things really escalated again along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir.
Mm.
We saw precision missile strikes, heavy artillery exchanges. It was a pretty intense few days, a real reminder of just how volatile things are there.
Absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
And the human cost. Well, field teams from the Kashmir Development Foundation, the KDF, they reported some grim numbers.
Yeah.
In Azad Jammu and Kashmir, that's a Pakistani-administered side, they confirmed 31 civilian deaths, 123 injured, and nearly 300 homes just gone, destroyed.
300 homes, wow.
And on the Indian-administered side, reports indicate at least 21 civilians killed, dozens more hurt. It's tragic when you hear these numbers. Just to be clear for listeners, Azad Jammu and Kashmir is the part run by Pakistan, and Indian-administered territory is the region under India's control.
Right. And this flare-up, it triggered quite a bit of international scrambling, didn't it?
It did. You had the U.S., the U.K., Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
All reportedly involved in trying to broker a ceasefire.
Which thankfully took hold around May 10th. But it feels tenuous.
Very tenuous. And that's exactly the point the KDF is making. They're based here in the UK, in Rochdale, actually.
Okay.
And they're saying, look, a ceasefire is good, but it's not enough. They believe the UK needs to shift from what they see as a sort of hands-off approach.
So that's our focus for this deep dive then. Understanding KDF's argument for more UK involvement and their plan for a lasting peace.
Precisely. They've put together a 7-point plan, and we really need to unpack why they think the UK has such a critical role, maybe even a responsibility, to play.
Okay, let's start with the urgency. The KDF's executive director, Sardar Aftab Khan, he seems very concerned about the current approach.
He does. He's basically warned that treating Kashmir as purely a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan is just, well, it's courting disaster.
He called this latest flare-up a warning shot, didn't he?
He did. The idea being that the underlying problems aren't solved and the next crisis could be even worse, potentially catastrophic, with consequences way beyond the region itself. It's interesting, too, their focus on a plebiscite, it really echoes those early UN resolutions. That's been a sticking point for, well, decades now. Getting agreement on the conditions for such a vote has always been the hurdle.
So why the UK specifically? What's the basis for KDF saying the UK has special responsibilities here?
Well, there are two main arguments they put forward. First, the UK's position on the UN Security Council. It's a permanent member.
So a global responsibility for peace and security.
Exactly. And second, there's the history. The UK was the colonial power during partition. KDF argues that this historical link brings a kind of moral obligation to help resolve the issues stemming from that time.
And part of that history is a specific UN resolution they keep highlighting, Resolution 47 from 1948.
Yes, that's absolutely central to their argument. It called for a plebiscite, a vote for the Kashmiri people to decide their own future.
But it never happened.
No. Resolution 47 also detailed conditions like Pakistani forces withdrawing and Indian forces reducing their presence. These preconditions became major points of disagreement, so the vote itself never took place.
And KDF is saying that original promise of self-determination needs to be revisited, needs to be honored now.
That's the core of it. They believe that principle remains valid and necessary for any just settlement.
Okay, so there's the historical and moral case. But KDF also argues this is a strategic issue for the UK today. How so?
Two key strategic points. Firstly, and this is the really alarming one, the India-Pakistan rivalry makes Kashmir a nuclear flashpoint.
Yeah.
Any major conflict there carries this terrifying risk of nuclear escalation, which would obviously be catastrophic globally.
Okay, that's huge. What's the second point?
It relates to trade, specifically the potential UK-India free trade agreement. KDF suggests that ongoing tensions, maybe even sanctions if things got really bad, could undermine that agreement.
So instability is bad for business, essentially.
Pretty much. They argue a stable region is vital for the UK's economic interests, especially concerning a partner as significant as India. Stable geopolitics usually means more reliable trade.
And this isn't just about geopolitics or economics far away. KDF points out the impact right here in the UK.
Absolutely. Within British South Asian communities, particularly in cities like Bradford, Leeds, Birmingham, Nottingham, London, the anxiety is real.
People with family ties there.
Exactly. Deep concern for relative safety, trying desperately to get news sometimes, worries about displacement, about whether they'd get consular help if things really blew up. It creates a lot of stress here.
KDF estimates over 1 million British Kashmiris. And they feel their concerns aren't really being heard in London.
That's the strong sense they convey. They feel overlooked in policy discussions, despite being British citizens with direct connections and, valuable perspectives on the situation.
Okay, this feels like a good point to get into the specifics of their plan. KDF's 7-point plan for peace. What's point number 1?
Point 1 circles back to what we discussed. The UK should actively advocate for a UN-supervised plebiscite, reaffirming that principle of self-determination from Resolution 47.
So championing that vote. Okay, point 2.
Point 2 is about practical support for UK nationals. They want 247 consular helplines set up in both Islamabad and New Delhi.
Right, for immediate assistance if a crisis hits again. Makes sense. What's point 3?
This one links trade and de-escalation. They propose making progress on trade deals, like the one with India, conditional on real steps to calm things down.
Like what kind of steps?
Demanding troop withdrawals from the line of control, insisting on a proper, binding, verifiable ceasefire, using economic leverage, essentially.
Okay. Point 4 deals with humanitarian aid.
Yes. Their idea is to channel aid through diaspora-led charities and trusted partners already working on the ground on both sides of the low sea.
Why them specifically?
They argue these groups often have the best networks, the local knowledge, the cultural understanding to deliver aid effectively and get it where it's most needed.
Right. Number 5 moves towards peace building within the diaspora here.
Exactly. Empowering diaspora peace building. They suggest promoting academic exchanges, interfaith dialogue, business links, connecting Kashmiri, Pakistani, and Indian diaspora members here in the UK.
Building bridges at the grassroots level.
That's the idea, leveraging the communities here to foster understanding.
Point 6 addresses potential tensions within the UK itself.
Yeah, they're calling for a UK Community Cohesion Forum. This would bring together local councillors, faith leaders, community activists.
To do what exactly?
To proactively manage and hopefully head off any communal tensions here that might flare up because of events in Kashmir. Keep things harmonious locally.
And the final point, number 7.
This proposes a dedicated UK government role, appointing a special envoy for Jammu and Kashmir.
To coordinate everything.
Yes, coordinate UK efforts, provide sustained focus, and report directly back to Parliament, ensuring accountability.
It's certainly a detailed roadmap. Is the KDF just publishing this, or are they actively lobbying?
Oh, they're actively pushing it. They've sent the briefing paper to MPs across all parties. They're urging select committees to hold hearings on Kashmir.
They really want this debated.
They absolutely do. And they see the diaspora communities here, Pakistani, Indian, Kashmiri, not as problems, but as essential stakeholders, key partners in finding a way forward.
And Sardar Aftab Khan's final words in that briefing really hammer home the urgency, don't they?
They do. He calls it a moment for British leadership. He talks about the UK having the leverage, the legal responsibility from history, and a moral obligation.
And the alternative is pretty stark.
Yes, he warns that inaction risks condemning another generation to this conflict, to more violence and suffering. It's a powerful call to action.
So the choice KDF presents to the UK is quite clear. Stick with the current approach, or step up and actively engage to try and broker a lasting peace.
That's the fundamental choice they lay out. Business as usual, or a much more proactive, engaged stance on a conflict with incredibly deep roots and, frankly, potentially global implications.
It really does leave you thinking, when you consider the history, the nuclear danger, the human cost. What does genuine stewardship actually look like in a situation this complex, this long-running?
It's a profound question, and one without easy answers. Definitely something to reflect on.